Hello guys, welcome back. It's been a while since I've done a Doctor Stone review, and in this video I'm going to be doing 5 chapters. So I'm only doing 140 to 144. So I'm probably going to just go over briefly what happens in each chapter and what I think about it. So we'll start off with 140. So this kind of a wrap up of the Treasure Island arc. So we see everyone getting freed and stuff like that, and people getting restored. And we learn that the next goal is the moon. So, but the thing about the next goal being the moon is kind of like the ultimate plan. So obviously, there's going to be steps involved for them to get there. So it's not like their next immediate plan. So it's more of the future, and like the main goal of the series now is to get to the moon. So that's going to be quite interesting to see how they get there. And it's a pretty ambitious project indeed. And even civilization, it took civilization a long time before they could even get to the moon, especially when they're starting from ground zero. And if we think about when we got to the moon in civilization, it was only in the 1900s. I mean, in 1900s. I mean, in the 20th century. It was only in the last. Let me think. When did they go to the moon? My goodness, like last 70, 80 years that we went to the moon. So it's going to take Senku and the group a lot of time because they would advance civilization to the point of the modern age in a sense. So it's gonna be quite a long time before they actually get to the moon, I think. Anyway, nevertheless, we also learn Sui's the bold dude. He's kind of had an epiphany in a sense that he's had a change of heart, and as you can see, all the villagers still recognize him as the master. And even though they didn't revive his father, Soyuz kind of has this responsibility that he needs to look after the village in the absence of his father, and the fact that there's no leaders there. And you can see that everyone still hails him as the master. So he decides to stay there. So that's kind of disappointing because he was quite a crucial member of the team in the sense of his photographic memory was very useful. But nevertheless, we lose him as a member because he's going to stay on Treasure Island. But in return, we get Curious Same. So she joins the group. So that's quite. I think that's pretty decent because she was very good in terms of combat level and strength because she went toe to toe with Kokaku and actually was stronger than Kokaku in some senses. So that's pretty good to see. And I can't wait to see her personality develop a bit more because she didn't really have that much personality. So that'd be quite good to see her interact with the other cast members as well. And we also learned that Senku gets the petrification device, so that's going to be really powerful against anyone. To be honest, the ability to petrify someone. And we also learned that they have a plan to wake up Tosaka from his slumber. So that's interesting to see as well. All right, so we go into chapter 141, and we learn that the device is called Doctor Stone. So I love it. Do you know? I love it when a series a series has a moment where they refer to the main title. So in this sense, the device is called Doctor Stone, which is obviously a callback to the entire series being called Doctor Stone. So I thought that was pretty interesting indeed. I love it when that happens. I love those callbacks. And we also learn because they petrify themselves and be resurrected again, they kind of fully mastered that because of the platinum. So you can see the some of the characters don't really have cracks on their faces anymore because they've been fully petrified, and it's they perfected petrification and resurrection in the sense. So I thought that was pretty cool. And because of Ginro's new servant guy Matsukaze, you can see that Ginro is being quite cocky, and that was a bit of a running gag in this chapter with him, his cockiness level increasing over and over, and the climax of his cockiness uh, being is the climax of his cockiness level kind of drops at the end, but we'll talk about that in a bit. So we can see that a new problem has occurred where the Doctor Stone, the device that turns everyone into stone, has kind of run out of energy because of the amount it's been used, and especially in the last usage, which was to cover the entire village. I'm guessing that drained a lot of his battery as well. So we don't really know how to recharge it either. So that's going to be a new mystery that Senku and the gang will have to uh, figure out as well. And with this, we also learned that Tosuka is being revived. So I didn't even know this guy was still alive, to be honest. But he seems to be in some kind of cryogenic slumber in a sense, the way he's been laid out. But because he gets revived and uses the last of the Doctor Stone fluid, so he's now been revived, and he's like the strongest dude that we've ever seen in the series. And we learn Matsukaze is pretty strong when he comes out, and he beats pretty much everyone in the crew up to then. But then Tusaka beats him with one hit, so it pretty much cements how strong Tosaka really is. So he's pretty much the strongest guy we know in the series so far. There may be someone stronger, but we are very undoubtful. So yeah, he Tosaka officially joins the group as well, and he decides to, obviously he's had a change of heart, and he still sticks by his code of ethics about, you know, only bringing the new people in and stuff like that. So he still has his ethics, but he's kind of a bit more tamed down and agreed to go with Senku's plan. So this is pretty good turning point if you think about Tosaka joining the group, because if you think about it, in the first full on arc, he was the main villain. um, if you're still an anime watcher, then he probably is still the main villain right now, because there was a massive chunk of the first section of the series was pretty much him being the main villain. So him joining the crew is really, a change of pace and story. So it's quite interesting to see the villain becoming a part of the group. So yeah, to help out. So yeah, we'll move on to chapter 142 now. So there was this nice little interaction which I thought was notable, that I thought I'd talk about. So there's a little touching moment with Tosaka and Gen, and he talks about how Gen betrayed him, because Gen did betray him because he was pretty much playing the double agent in the little war against those two. And he also mentions how he actually is grateful that he did betray him in the end, because if he didn't betray him, things wouldn't have turned out the way it did, and he kind of likes the way things have turned out. So I thought that was really cute, and it kind of removes the tension between those two because of the of what Gen did to him anyway. And then it was a bit of comedic effort, but oh, I completely forgot to talk about what happened next. So when Tosaka beats Mitsukage, Ginro's cockiness level drops to zero. So I thought that was pretty funny as well. But all right, back to topic. So we also learn about Tosaka and Ruski, and we kind of see this, some of the other crew members kind of point out to us how Ruski's talking about money and stuff like that, and then he kind of gets dragged over to tell Tosaka he doesn't really like stuff like that, and he hates people like Ruski because he's pretty much the embodiment of what Tosaka's ethos is not about. Because Tosaka's ethos is all about um, pure pure justice, goodness, stuff like that, and he hates people who are corrupt and stuff, and money and everything wrong with modern civilization. I mean, he's pretty much a communist in a sense, and Ruski's a capitalist. So, and I thought that was quite an interesting thing that he brought up. So I can definitely see tensions caused between those two later on because of their different morals and ethos. And I liked how they were mentioned. They're like cat and dog. So that's going to be quite interesting to see when they eventually will bash heads, or if they won't. So defy the odds. But yeah, that was quite interesting dynamic brewing there. So yeah, two people who should avoid being in the same room, pretty much. And we also get a roadmap of how they're getting to the moon. So the first things, they have this like massive sculpture which shows like the different stages they have to go to, and one of the first places they go into is the USA. So I thought that was pretty interesting indeed. And so what they want to do in the USA is revive a whole city, and the main reason why they go to the USA is for corn, and apparently they need corn. So I don't know how that's going to work, but there's also a time constraint on this plan as well, because of winter. So they need to do everything before winter comes, because when winter comes, crop yield and everything is going to be low, slow, and then they've got to wait until winter passes. So it's going to take a long time. So there's a bit of time pressure now. They got to get there before winter as well. And I quite liked how when they were discussing about reviving cities, they go back to the core ethos of Tosaka, and how he only wanted to revive good people and not let the bad people come back. And he wasn't even the one who mentioned that. There was other people talking about that exact same dilemma, and obviously it wasn't really explored in more details. But I'm guessing it'll be more explored more in detail once we get to the actual city. But that's going to be a point of conflict for some of the members, especially Senku and Tosaka. All right, so then we got into 143, and so they're setting off on the sea, and I've got to say there was this one panel where he drew the sky and the sea, and it looked so realistic. And I'm pretty sure that was just a photo that he took of the sky and the sea, and he drew the little boat over it because it looked so realistic. And I'm gonna say I was mesmerized by that panel. And if he drew that by hand, I've got to say kudos to Bochi, man. That panel looked amazing. So they're going to the USA, so that's going to be quite interesting. And this was quite an interesting conflict that has occurred, and I didn't think I knew that would eventually occur because of how strong personality and how hard headed the two people are. So Senku versus Ruski, but I quite liked how even though they had their differences, and you can see that they both wanted their way. They didn't. There was no malice, and it was more of a very professional argument over which way is which, and there was no like malice, as I was saying. I repeat myself twice, but it was a very mature kind of conversation, and and I really respect that there was the way it was, and it wasn't personal or anything. It was just two different ideals. And then yeah, this was quite interesting because it was pointed out that both of their both of their strategies were both sound and logistic, but they were just coming from they prioritized two different things. Whereas Senku was more realistic about his approach of thinking, and he wanted to get there quicker so he can avoid the future of the upcoming winter. So he would have to harvest more, and in a sense, he's right because if they get there in time, I mean, if they get there too late, then their crop yield won't be very big, and they'll have to wait like a few more months before winter passes. So Senku really doesn't want to wait that long, and quite it'll be quite a burden on everyone to wait that long just for no reason. Whereas Risky's ideal is more based on the people, and he wants to think about how it's going to be a hard journey if we take that route, and everyone's going to have to work harder and stuff like that. So he's thinking more about the people. So in this sense, Risky is a bit more ethical because he's caring about the crew members and stuff, whereas Senku's is a bit more logical. And both points are correct, but but then how do we decide who wins? And they decide the winner is decided over poker. So I thought that was quite an interesting way to settle the dispute anyway. But yeah, so it's just two different methods which prioritize two different things, to be honest. And then we move on to chapter 144. So the poker match is quite an interesting thing indeed. So they both play poker, and the thing that makes the thing about poker more interesting is because both teams are going to be cheating. So at first I thought they're going to play fair and square poker, but I realized that no, this wasn't happening. And one thing I did notice during this chapter is the way a lot of the casts are picking sides between Ruski and Senku, because obviously those two are pretty much the two main characters. I mean, Ruski is not the main character, but he's pretty much a Senku clone. Ever since this dude's been introduced, I've always seen him as like the Senku clone, and so he's pretty much number two on the ship in terms of leadership and everything. So one thing I did notice is the crew members, they were all picking sides, so there is causing a little fraction between the group, as everyone's picking a side between Senku and Ruski. And we can obviously who's going to be more loyal to who. Obviously Taiji picking Senku and stuff like that. I forgot who everyone else picks, but it's quite obvious who they pick at this side, and we can see everyone gambling. So that was quite a thing, and gambling isn't very ethically correct, but it's all right. But so we can see everyone gambling on who's going to win, and everyone's picking a side who they think is going to win, and then so it's a 2v2 gambling. I mean, poker match. So that was quite interesting, and with Gen being on Ruski's side and Kokaku being on Senku's side, and it was a very interesting dynamic because obviously Gen's quite a sneaky, sly guy, and he's obviously going to cheat somewhere or another. And Kokaku, she's got the eyes to keep an eye on Gen's sleight of hand and stuff like that. So they kind of balance each other out. So I gotta say that it was a very interesting poker game. We can see that Gen using all of his moves and everything. Like very typical Gen style cheats, the way he has extra cards and stuff like that. And Senku also, he I was surprised Senku cheats, but he cheats in very scientific ways. In a sense, he uses alcohol and smelling and all this stuff, and you can see his face like kind of swells up because how his insensitive his face is. And I kind of I gotta say, it was a very interesting poker match indeed. But the way Senku wins had me in stitches because when they both reveal their hand, you can definitely see that they both cheated with the fact that there's five aces on the field. So obviously one of them has added an extra ace on the field. But somehow Senku wins, and it was kind of typical. Senku was going to win because he's the main character after all, and he gets his way. And I kind of wanted to see Risky win. I don't know why, because I love it when people who aren't the main character actually win them against the main character. It's always something I've always enjoyed more because it's a bit more left field and happens less. So I kind of wanted Ruski to win, but nevertheless Senku wins. So they're going on the more dangerous and harder path, but it's going to get there quicker. So let's see how that happens. And I also want to know how Ruski feels about losing to Senku. Like, is he going to be quite bitter, or is he going to accept that, okay, Senku's won, so I'm going to go with the plan? Or is he going to be more like, oh my god, I can't believe Senku won, I'm going to leave this ship, or I'm not going to do what he wants me to do? So we never it's never really, what you call it, explored how he feels, because it kind of ends abruptly with Senku winning and stuff like that. So I want to see that being explored a bit more, maybe next chapter. And also Tosuko wasn't really there for most of the chapter, so I want to see here how his interaction with the rest of the group is going to be. So yeah, bye. Gotta say, these five chapters that I've read was I enjoyed them a lot, and there was a lot of different elements in all of the chapters which I did enjoy. So there was a lot of comedic value, and the pacing of the chapters were just right. It wasn't feeling too sluggish or anything too slow, and there was a lot of drama as well. So I quite enjoyed how the story is progressing. And I definitely enjoyed the more comedic aspects of the chapters, as I found them very funny and entertaining. And even though there was that poker match at the end, I gotta say I was entertained all the way through, and I'm definitely enjoying Doctor Stone a lot, and I can't wait to see what more is in store for us. But that's all for me. Bye.